Act 3. The room at Testman's. The curtains are drawn over the middle doorway and also over the glass door. The lamp half turns down and with a shade over it, burning on the table. In the stove, the door of which stands open, there has been a fire which is now nearly burnt out. Mrs. Elvsted, wrapped in a large shawl and with her feet upon a footrest, sits close to the stove and back in the armchair. Hedda, fully dressed, lies sleeping upon the sofa with a sofa blanket over her.
Oh, not yet. Oh God, not yet.
Berta slips cautiously in by the hall door. She has a letter in her hands.
Well, has anyone come?
Yes, a girl has just brought this letter.
Oh, a letter. Give it to me.
No, it's for Dr. Testman, ma'am. It
Oh,
was Miss Testman's servant that brought it. I'll lay it here on the table.
yes, do.
I think I had better put out the lamp. It's smoking.
Yes, put it out. It must soon be daylight now.
It is daylight already, ma'am.
Oh, yes, broad daylight, and no one has come back yet.
Lord bless you, ma'am. I guessed how it would be.
He guessed.
Yes, when I saw that a certain person had come back to town and that he went off with them. For we've heard enough about that gentleman before now.
Don't speak so loud. You will waken Mrs. Tesman.
No, oh, no, let her sleep. Poor thing. Shan't I put some wood on the fire?
Oh, thanks, not for me.
Oh, very well.
She goes out softly by the hall door.
What's that?
Oh, it was only the servant.
Oh, we're here. Yes, now I remember. What o'clock is it, Thea?
It's past 7.
When did Tessman come home?
He has not come home. No one has come.
Think of our watching waiting here till 4 in the morning.
And how I watched and waited for him.
Well, we might have spared ourselves the trouble.
Did you get a little sleep?
Oh, yes, I believe I have slept pretty well. Have you not?
Not for a moment. I couldn't, Hedda. Not to save my life.
There's nothing to be so alarmed about. I understand quite well what has happened.
What do you think? Won't you tell me?
Why, of course, it has to have been a very late affair at Judge Brack's.
Well, yes, that is clear enough, but all the same.
And then you see, Tesman hasn't cared to come home and ring us up in the middle of the night. Perhaps he wasn't inclined to show himself either immediately after a jollification.
But in that case, where can he have gone?
Of course, he has gone to Unce and slept there. They have his old room ready for him.
No, he can't be with them, for a letter has just come for him from Miss Tessman. There it lies.
Indeed? Why, yes, it's addressed in Aunt Julia's hand. Well, then he has remained at Judge Brack's, and as for Eilert Lovberg, he is sitting with vine leaves in his hair, reading his manuscript.
Oh, Hedda, you are just saying things you don't believe a bit.
You really are a little blockhead, Thea.
Yes, I suppose I am.
And how mortally tired you look.
Yes, I am mortally tired.
Well, then, you must do as I tell you. You must go into my room and lie down for a while.
No, I shouldn't be able to sleep.
I am sure you would.
Well, but your husband is certain to come home soon now, and then I want to know at once.
I shall take care to let you know when he comes.
Do you promise me, Hedda?
Yes, rely upon me. Just you go in and have a sleep in the meantime.
Thanks. Then I'll try.
She goes off to the inner room. Hedda goes up to the glass door and draws back the curtains. The broad daylight streams into the room. Then she looks at herself in a mirror and arranges her hair. Next, she goes to the hall door and presses the bell button. Berta presently appears at the hall door.
Did you want anything, ma'am?
Yes, You must put some more wood in the stove. I'm shivering.
Bless me. I'll make the fire at once.
She rakes the embers together and lays a piece of wood upon them, then stops and listens.
That was a ring at the front door, ma'am.
Then go to the door. I will look after the fire.
It'll soon burn out up.
She goes out by the hall door. Hedda kneels on the footrest and lays some more pieces of wood in the stove. After a short pause, George Testman enters from the hall. He steals on tiptoes toward the middle doorway and is about to slip through the curtains.
Good morning.
Hedda, good heavens, are you up so early, eh?
Yes, I am up very early this morning.
And I never doubted you were still sound asleep. Fancy that, Hedda.
Don't speak so loud. Mrs. Elveston is resting in my room?
Has Mrs. Elfsted been here all night?
Yes, since no one came to fetch her.
Ah, to be sure.
Well, did you enjoy yourselves at Judge Brack's?
Have you been anxious about me, eh?
No, I should never think of being anxious, but I asked if you had enjoyed yourself.
Oh, yes, for once in a way. Especially the beginning of the evening, for then Eilert read me part of his book. We arrived more than an hour too early, fancy that, and Brack had all sorts of arrangements to make, so Eilert read to me.
Well, tell me then.
Oh, Hedda, you can't conceive what a book that is going to be. I believe is one of the most remarkable things that have ever been written. Fancy that.
Yes, yes, I don't care about that.
I must make a confession to you, Hedda. When he had finished reading, a horrid feeling came over me.
A horrid feeling?
I felt jealous of Eilert for having had it in him to write such a book. Only think, Hedda.
Yes, yes, I'm thinking.
And then how pitiful to think that he, with all his gifts, should be irreclaimable after all.
I suppose you mean that he has more courage than the rest?
No, not at all. I mean that he is incapable of taking his pleasure in moderation.
And what came of it all in the end?
Well, to tell the truth, I think it might be best described as an orgy, Hedda.
Had he vine leaves in his hair?
Vine leaves. No, I saw nothing of the sort, but he made a long, rambling speech in honor of the woman who had inspired him in his work. That was the phrase he used.
Did he name her?
No, he didn't. But I can't help thinking he meant Mrs. Elfsted. You may be sure he did.
Well, where did you part from him?
On the way to town, we broke up, the last of us at any rate, altogether, and Brack came with us to get a breath of fresh air. And then, you see, we agreed to take Eilert home, for he had had far more than was good for him. But now comes the strange part of it, Hedda. Or I should rather say the melancholy part of it. I declare I am almost ashamed, on Eilert's account, to tell you.
Oh, go on.
Well, as we were getting near town, you see, I happened to drop a little behind the others, only for a minute too. Fancy that.
Yes, yes, but
And then, as I hurried after them, what do you think I found by the wayside, eh?
oh, how should I know?
You mustn't speak of it to a soul, Hedda. Do you hear? Promise me, for Eilert's sake. Fancy, dear, I found this.
Is not that the parcel he had with him yesterday?
Yes, it is the whole of his precious, irreplaceable manuscript. And he had gone and lost it, and knew nothing about it. Oh, fancy, Hedda, so deplorably.
But why did you not give him back the parcel at once?
I didn't dare to. In the state he was in?
Did you not tell any of the others that you had found it?
Oh, far from it. You can surely understand that, for Eilert's sake. I wouldn't do that.
So no one knows that Eilert Lovberg's manuscript is in your possession?
No, and no one must know about it.
Then what did you say to him afterward?
I didn't talk to him again at all. For when we got among the streets, he and 2 or 3 of the others gave us the slip and disappeared. Fancy that.
Indeed, they must have taken him home then.
Yes, so it appear. And Brack too left us.
And what have you been doing with yourself since?
Well, I and some of the others went home with one of the party, a jolly fellow, and took our morning coffee with him. Or perhaps I should rather call it our night coffee. But when I rested a little and given Eilert, poor fellow, time to have his sleep out, I must take this back to him.
No, don't give it to him. Not in such a hurry, I mean. Let me read it first.
Oh no, my dearest Hedda, I mustn't. I really mustn't. No, for you can imagine what a state of despair he'll be in when he wakens and misses the manuscript. He has no copy of it, you know. He told me so.
Can such a thing not be reproduced? Written over again?
Oh no, I don't think that would be possible for the inspiration, you see.
Yes, yes, I suppose it depends on that. But by the by, here's a letter for you.
Fancy.
It came earlier this morning.
It's from Aunt Julia. What can it be? Oh, Hedda. She says that poor Aunt Rena is dying.
Well, we were prepared for that.
And if I want to see her again, I must make haste. I'll run into them at once.
Will you run?
Oh, my dearest Hedda, if you could only make up your mind to come with me, just think.
No, no, don't ask me. I will not look upon sickness and death. I loathe all sorts of ugliness.
Well then, my hat, my overcoat. Oh, in the hall. I do hope I mayn't come too late, Hedda. Eh?
Oh, if you run.
Berta appears at the hall door.
Judge Brack is at the door and wishes to know if he may come in.
At this time? No, I can't possibly see him.
But I can. Ask Judge Brack to come in.
Berta goes out.
The parcel, Tessman.
Yes, give it to me.
No, no, I will keep it till you come back.
She goes to the writing table and places it in the bookcase. Tessman stands in a flurry of haste and cannot get his gloves on. Judge Brack enters from the hall.
You are an early bird, I must say.
Yes, don't you think so? Are you on the move too?
Yes, I must rush to my aunt's. Fancy, the invalid one is lying at death's door. Poor creature.
Dear me, is she indeed? Then on no account let me detain you at such a critical moment.
Yes, I must really rush. Goodbye, goodbye.
He hastens out by the hall door.
You seem to have made a particularly lively night of it at your rooms, Judge Brack.
I assure you I have not had my clothes off, Mrs. Hedda.
Not you either?
No, as you may see. But what has Tessman been telling you of the night's adventures?
Oh, some tiresome story. Only that they went and had coffee somewhere or another.
I have heard about that coffee party already. Eilert Lovberg was not with him, I fancy.
No, they had taken him home before that.
Tessman too?
No, but some of the others, he said.
George Tessman really is an ingenious creature, Mrs. Hedda.
Yes, heaven knows he is. Then is there something behind all this?
Yes, perhaps there may be.
Well, then sit down, my dear judge, and tell your story in comfort.
She seats herself to the left of the table. Brack sits near her at the long side of the table.
I had special reasons for keeping track of my guests last night.
Of Islet Loveberg among the rest, perhaps?
Frankly, yes.
Now you really make me curious.
Do you know where he and one or two of the others finished the night, Mrs. Hedda?
If it is not quite unmentionable, tell me.
Oh no, it's not at all unmentionable. Well, they put in an appearance at a particularly animated soiree.
Of the lively kind?
Of the very liveliest. Loveberg, as well as the others, had been invited in advance. I knew all about it, but he had declined the invitation, for now, as you know, he has become a new man.
Up at the Elwestads? Yes, but he went after all, then?
Well, you see, Mrs. Hedda, unhappily, the spirit moved him at my rooms last evening.
Yes, I hear he found inspiration.
Pretty violent inspiration. Well, I fancy that altered his purpose, for we menfolk unfortunately are not always so firm in our principles as we ought to be.
Oh, I am sure you are an exception, Judge Bragg. But as to Loveberg?
To make a long story short, he landed at last in Mademoiselle Diana's rooms.
Mademoiselle Diana's?
It was Mademoiselle Diana that was giving the soiree to a select circle of her admirers and her lady friends.
Is she a red-haired woman?
Precisely.
A sort of a singer?
Oh, yes, in her leisure moments, and moreover, a mighty huntress of men, Mrs. Hedda. You have no doubt heard of her. Eilert Lovberg was one of her most enthusiastic protectors in the days of his glory.
And how did all this end?
Far from amicably, it appears. After a most tender meeting, they seem to have come to blows.
Loveberg and she?
Yes, he accused her or her friends of having robbed him. He declared that his pocketbook had disappeared and other things as well. In short, he seems to have made a furious disturbance.
And what came of it all?
It came to a general scrimmage in which the ladies as well as the gentlemen took part. Fortunately, the police at last appeared on the scene.
The police, too?
Yes, I fancy it will prove a costly frolic for Eilert Lovberg, crazy being that he is. He seems to have made a violent resistance, to have hit one of the constables on the head and torn the coat off his back. So they had to march him off to the police station with the rest.
How have you learned of all this?
From the police themselves.
So that is what happened? Then he had no vine leaves in his hair?
Vine leaves, Mrs. Hedda?
But tell me now, Judge, what is your real reason for tracking out Albert Loveberg's moments so carefully?
In the first place, it could not be entirely indifferent to me if it should appear in the police court that he came straight from my house.
Will the matter come into court then?
Of course. However, I should scarcely have troubled you so much about that. But I thought that, as a friend of the family, it was my duty to supply you and Tessman with a full account of his nocturnal exploits.
Why so, Judge Bragg?
Why, because I have a shrewd suspicion that he intends to use you as a sort of blind.
Oh, how can you think such a thing?
Good heavens, Mrs. Hedda, we have eyes in our head. Mark my words, this Mrs. Elvsted will be in no hurry to leave town again.
Well, even if there should be anything between them, I suppose there are plenty of other places where they could meet.
Not a single home. Henceforth, as before, every respectable house will be closed against Eilert Lovberg.
And so ought mine to be, you mean?
Yes, I confess it would be more than painful to me if this personage were to be made free of your house. How superfluous, how intrusive he would be if he were to force his way into...
Into the triangle?
Precisely. It would simply mean that I should find myself homeless.
So you want to be the one cock in the basket? That is your aim?
Yes, that is my aim. And for that, I will fight with every weapon I can command.
I see you are a dangerous person when it comes to the point.
Do you think so?
I am beginning to think so. and I am exceedingly glad to think that you have no sort of hold over me.
Well, Mrs. Hedda, perhaps you are right there. If I had, who knows what I might be capable of.
Come now, Judge Brack. That sounds almost like a threat.
Oh, no, not at all. The triangle, ought, if possible, to be spontaneously constructed.
There, I agree with you.
Well, now I have said all I had to say, and I had better be getting back to town. Goodbye, Mrs. Hedda.
Are you going through the garden?
Yes, it's a shortcut for me.
And then it is a back way too?
Quite so. I have no objection to backways. They may be piquant enough at times.
When there is ball practice going on, you mean?
Oh, people don't shoot their tame poultry, I fancy.
Oh no, then there's only one cock in the basket.
They exchange laughing nods of farewell. He goes. She closes the door behind him. Hedda, who has become quite serious, stands for a moment, looking out. Presently, she goes and peeps through the curtain over the middle doorway. Then she goes to the writing table, takes Lovborg's packet out of the bookcase, and is on the point of looking through its contents. Berta is heard speaking to Lovborg in the hall. Hedda turns and listens. Then she hastily locks up the packet in the drawer and lays the key on the inkstand. Eilert Lovborg, with his greatcoat on and his hat in his hand, tears open the hall door. He looks somewhat confused and irritated.
And I tell you, I must and will come in. There.
He closes the door, turns, sees Hedda, and at once regains his self-control, and bows.
Well, Mr. Lovborg, this is rather a late hour to call for Thea.
You mean rather an early hour to call on you. Pray pardon me.
How do you know that she is still here?
They told me at her lodgings that she had been out all night.
Did you notice anything about the people of the house when they said that?
Notice anything about them?
I mean, did they seem to think it odd?
Oh, yes, of course. I am dragging her down with me. However, I didn't notice anything. I suppose Tessman is not up yet?
No, I think not.
When did he come home?
Very late.
Did he tell you anything?
Yes, I gather that you had had an exceedingly jolly evening at Judge Brack's.
Nothing more?
I don't think so. However, I was so dreadfully sleepy.
Mrs. Elvsted enters through the curtains of the middle doorway.
Lovborg, at last.
Yes, at last. And too late.
Why is it too late?
Everything is too late now. It is all over with me.
Oh, no. Don't say that.
You will say the same when you hear.
I won't hear anything.
Perhaps you would prefer to talk to her alone? If so, I will leave you.
No, stay. You too. I beg you to stay.
Yes, but I won't hear anything. I tell you.
It is not last night's adventures that I want to talk about.
What is it then?
I want to say that now our ways must part.
Part?
I knew it.
You can be of no more service to me, Thea.
How can you stand there and say that? No more service to you. Am I not help you now as before? Are we not to go on working together?
Henceforward, I shall do no work.
Well, then what am I to do with my life?
You must try to live your life as if you had never known me.
But you know I cannot do that.
Try if you cannot, Thea. You must go home again.
Never. In this world where you are, there will I be also. I will not let myself be driven away like this. I will remain here, and I will be with you when the book appears.
Ah, yes, the book.
My book and Thea's. For that is what it is.
Yes, I feel that it is. And that is why I have a right to be with you when it appears. I will see with my own eyes how respect and honor pour in upon you afresh. And the happiness. Oh, I must share it with you.
Thea, our book will never appear.
Never appear. Lofborg, what have you done with the manuscript?
Yes, the manuscripts.
Where is it?
The manuscript? Well then, I have torn the manuscript into 1,000 pieces.
No. No.
But that's not.
Not true, you think?
Oh, well, yeah, of course, since you say so, but it sounded so improbable.
It is true all the same.
Oh God, Hedda! Torn his own work to pieces.
I have torn my own life to pieces. So why should I not tear my life work too?
And you did this last night?
Yes, I tell you. Tore it into 1,000 pieces and scattered them on the fjord, far out. There is cool seawater at any rate. Let them drift upon it, drift with the current and the wind. And then presently they will sink, deeper and deeper, as I shall, Thea.
Do you know, Lefborg, that what you have done with this book, I shall think of it to my dying day as though you had killed a little child.
Yes, you are right. It is a sort of child murder.
How could you then? Did the child belong to me too?
Ah, the child.
It's all over then. Well. Now I will go, Hedda.
But you are not going away from town.
I don't know what I shall do. I shall see nothing but darkness before me.
She goes out by the hall door.
So you are not going to see her home, Mr. Lovebrock?
I? Through the streets? Would you have people see her walking with me?
Of course, I don't know what else might have happened last night, but is it so utterly irretrievable?
It will not end with last night. I know that perfectly well. And the thing is that now I have no taste for that sort of life either. I won't begin it anew. She has broken my courage and my power of braving life out.
So that pretty little fool has had her fingers in a man's destiny. But all the same, how could you treat her so heartlessly?
Oh, don't say that I was heartless.
To go and destroy what has filled her whole soul for months and years, you do not call that heartless.
To you, I can tell the truth, Hedda.
The truth?
First, promise me, give me your word that what I now confide in you, Thea shall never know.
I give you my word.
Good. Then let me tell you that what I said just now was untrue.
About the manuscript?
Yes. I have not torn it to pieces, nor thrown it into the fjord.
No. But where is it then?
I have destroyed it nonetheless. Utterly destroyed it, Hedda.
I don't understand.
Thea said that what I had done seemed to her like a child murder. But to kill his child, that is not the worst thing a father can do to it.
Not the worst?
Suppose now, Hedda, that a man, in the small hours of the morning, came to his child's mother after a night of riot and debauchery and said, "Listen, I have been here and there, in this place and in that, and I have taken our child with to this place and to that. And I have lost the child, utterly lost it. The devil knows into what hands it may have fallen, who may have had their clutches on it."
Well, but when all is said and done, you know, this was only a book.
Thea's pure soul was in that book.
Yes, so I understand.
And you can understand, too, that for her and me, together, no future is possible.
What path do you mean to take then?
None. I will only try to make an end of it all. The sooner the better.
Eilert Lovberg, listen to me. Will you not try to do it beautifully?
Beautifully? With vine leaves in my hair as you used to dream in the old days.
No, no. I have lost my faith in the vine leaves, but beautifully, nevertheless. For once in a while, goodbye. You must go now, and do not come here any more.
Goodbye, Mrs. Tessman. And give George Tessman my love.
No, wait. I must give you a memento to take with you.
She goes to the writing table and opens the drawer and the pistol case, then returns to Lofborg with one of the pistols.
This? Is this the memento?
Yes, do you recognize it? It was aimed at you once.
You should have used it then.
Take it. And do you use it now?
Thanks.
And beautifully, Eilert Lovberg. Promise me that.
Goodbye, Hedda Gabler.
He goes out by the hall door. Hedda listens for a moment at the door. Then she goes up to the writing table, takes out the packet of manuscript, peeps under the cover, draws a few of the sheets half out, and looks at them. Next, she goes over and seats herself in the armchair beside the stove, with the packet in her lap. Presently, she opens the stove door and then the packets.
Now, I am burning your child, Thea. Burning it, curly locks. Your child and Elliot Lovberg's. I am burning your child.
Act 4. The same rooms as the Testmans. It is evening. The drawing room is in darkness. The back room is light by the hanging lamp over the table. The curtains over the glass door are drawn close. Hedda, dressed in black, walks to and fro in the dark room. Then she goes into the back room and disappears for a moment to the left. She is heard to strike a few chords on the piano. Presently, she comes inside again and returns to the drawing room. Berta enters from the right through the inner room with a lighted lamp, where she places it on the table in front of the corner settee in the drawing room. Her eyes are red with weeping. She goes quietly and circumspectly out to the right. Hedda goes up to the glass door, lifts the curtain a little aside, and looks into the darkness. Shortly afterwards, Miss Tessman, in mourning, with a bonnet and veil on, comes in from the hall. Hedda goes toward her and holds out her hand.
Yes, Hedda, here I am, in mourning and forlorn, for now my poor sister has at last found peace.
I have heard the news already, as you see. Tessman sent me a card.
Yes, he promised me he would. Nevertheless, I thought that to Hedda, here in this house of light, I helped myself to bring the tidings of death.
That was very kind of you.
Irina ought not to have left us just now. This is not the time for Hedda's house to be a house of mourning.
She died quite peacefully, did she not, Miss Tessman?
Oh, her end was so calm, so beautiful. And then she had the unspeakable happiness of seeing George once more and bidding him goodbye. Has he not come home yet?
No. He wrote that he might be detained. But won't you sit down?
No, thank you, my dear Hedda. I should like to, but I have so much to do. I must prepare my dear one for her rest as well as I can. She shall go to her grave looking her best.
Can I not help you in any way?
Oh, you must not think of it. Hedda Tessman must have no hand in such mournful work, nor let her thought dwell on it either. Not at this time.
One is not always mistress of one's thoughts.
Ah, yes, it is the way of the world. At home we shall be sewing a shroud, and here there will soon be sewing too, I suppose. But of another sort, thank God.
George Tessman enters by the hall door.
Ah, you have come at last.
You here, Aunt Julia, with Hedda? Fancy that.
I was just going, my dear boy. Well, have you done all you promised?
No, I'm really afraid I've forgotten half of it. I must come to you again tomorrow. Today my brain is all a whirl. I can't keep my thoughts together.
Why, my dear George, you mustn't take it in this way.
Mustn't? How do you mean?
Even in your sorrow, you must rejoice as I do. Rejoice that she is at rest.
Oh, yes, yes. You're thinking of Aunt Rena.
You will feel lonely now, Miss Tessman.
Just at first, yes, but that will not last long, I hope. I dare say I shall soon find an occupant for Rena's little room.
Indeed. Who do you think will take it, eh?
Oh, there's always some poor invalid or other in want of nursing. Unfortunately.
Would you really take such a burden upon you again?
A burden? Heaven forgive you, child. It has been no burden to me.
But suppose you had a total stranger on your hands.
Oh, one soon makes friends with sick folk, and it's an absolute necessity for me to have someone to live for. Well, heaven be praised, there may soon be something in this house, too, to keep an old man busy.
Oh, don't trouble about anything here.
Yes, just fancy what a nice time we three might have together if.
If
Oh, nothing. It'll all come right. Let's hope so, eh?
Ah, well, I dare say you two want to talk to each other. And perhaps Hedda may have something to tell you too, George. Goodbye. I must go home to Rena. How strange it is to think that now Rena's with me and my poor brother as well.
Yes. Fancy that, Aunt Julia, eh?
Miss Tessman goes out by the hall door.
I almost believe your Aunt Rena's death affects you more than it does your Aunt Julia.
Oh, it's not that alone. It's Eiler I'm so terribly uneasy about.
Is there anything new about him?
I looked in at his rooms this afternoon, intending to tell him the manuscript was in safe keeping.
Well, did you find him?
No, he wasn't at home, but afterwards I met Mrs. Elstead, and she told me that he has been here early this morning,
Yes, directly after you had gone.
and that he had said he'd torn his manuscript to pieces, eh?
Yes, so he declared.
Why, good heavens, must he have been completely out of his mind? I suppose you thought it best not to give it back to him, Hedda.
No, he did not get it.
Oh, but of course you told him that we had it.
Did you tell Mrs. Everstead?
No, I thought I had better not. But you ought to have told him. Fancy if in desperation he should go and do himself some injury. Let me have the manuscript, Hedda. I will take it to him at once. Where is it?
I have not got it.
Not got it? What in the world do you mean?
I have burnt it. Every line of it.
Burnt? Burnt Eilert's manuscript?
Don't scream so. The servant might hear you.
Burnt? Why, good God, no, 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 that's impossible.
It is so, nonetheless.
Do you know what you have done, Hedda? It's unlawful appropriation of lost property. Fancy that. I'll ask Judge Brack, and he'll tell you what it is.
I advise you not to speak of it, either to Judge Brack or to anyone else.
But how could you do anything so unheard of? What put it in your head? What possessed you? Answer me that, eh?
I did it for your sake, George.
For my sake.
This morning when you told me about what he had read to you,
Yes? Yes, what then?
you acknowledged that you envied him his work.
Oh, of course, I didn't mean that literally.
No matter, I cannot bear the idea that anyone should throw you into the shade.
Oh, Hedda, is this true? But I never knew you to show your love like that before. Fancy that.
Well, I may as well tell you that just at this time. No. You can ask Aunt Julia. She will tell you fast enough.
Oh, I almost think I understand you, Hedda. Great heavens, do you really mean it? Eh?
Don't shout so. The servant might hear you.
The servant! Well, how absurd you are, Hedda. It's only my young Berta. Well, I'll tell Berta myself.
Oh, it is killing me. It is killing me, all of this.
What is, Hedda? Huh?
All this absurdity, George.
Absurdity? Do you see anything absurd about my being overjoyed at the news? But after all, perhaps I had better not say anything to Berta.
Oh, why not that too?
No, not yet. But I must certainly tell Aunt Julia. And then that you have begun to call me George too. Fancy that. Oh, Aunt Julia will be so happy, so happy.
When she hears that I have burnt Elliot Lovebrook's manuscript for your sake?
Oh, no. By the by, that affair with the manuscripts, of course nobody must know about that, but that you love me so much. Hedda, Aunt Julia must really share my joy in that. I wonder now whether this sort of thing is usual in young wives, huh?
I think you had better ask Aunt Julia that question too.
I will indeed, at some time or another. And yet, the manuscript. The manuscript, good God. It's terrible to think of what will become of poor Eilert now.
Mrs. Elvsted, dressed as in the first act, with her hat and cloak, enters by the hall door.
Oh dear, Hedda, forgive my coming again.
What is the matter with you, Thea?
Something about Eilert Lovborg again, huh?
Yes, I am dreadfully afraid some misfortune has happened to him.
Do you think so?
Why, good Lord, what makes you think that, Mrs. Elvsted?
I heard them talking of him at my boarding house, just as I came in. Oh, the most incredible rumors are afloat about him today.
Yes, fancy, so I heard too, and I can bear witness that he went straight home to bed last night. Fancy that.
Well, what did they say at the boarding house?
Oh, I couldn't make out anything clearly. Either they knew nothing definite, or else, well, they stopped talking when they saw me, and I did not dare to ask.
We must hope that you misunderstood them, Mrs. Elvsted.
No, I am sure it was of him they were talking, and I heard something about the hospital,
The
or
hospital?
No, surely that cannot be.
oh, I was in such mortal terror. I went to his lodgings and asked for him there.
You could make up your mind to that, Thea?
Well, what else could I do? I really could bear the suspense no longer.
But you didn't find him either.
No. And the people knew nothing about him. He hadn't been home since yesterday afternoon, they said.
Yesterday? Fancy, how could they say that?
I am sure something terrible must have happened to him.
Hedda dear, how would it be if I were to go and make inquiries?
No, don't you mix yourself up in his affair.
Judge Brack enters by the hall door, which Berta opens and closes behind him. He looks grave and bows in silence.
Oh, is that you, my dear judge? Huh?
Yes, it was imperative that I should see you this evening.
Can I see you have heard the news about Aunt Rena?
Yes, that among other things.
Isn't it sad? Eh?
Well, my dear Testman, that depends on how you look at it.
Has anything else happened?
Yes,
Anything said, Judge Brack?
that too depends on how you look at it, Mrs. Testman.
It is something about Eilert Lufberg.
What makes you think that, madam? Perhaps you've already heard something?
No, nothing at all, but,
Oh, for heaven's sake, tell us.
Well, I regret to say Eilert Lovberg has been taken to the hospital. He is lying at the point of death.
oh God, oh God!
To the hospital. At the point of death.
So soon then?
And we parted in anger, Hedda.
Thea, be careful.
I must go to him. I must see him alive.
It is useless, madam. No one will be admitted.
At least tell me what happened to him. What is it?
Don't mean to say that he has himself.
Yes, I am sure he has.
Unfortunately, you have guessed quite correctly, Mrs. Testman.
Oh, how horrible.
Self, then. Fancy that.
Shot himself.
Rightly guessed again, Mrs. Testman.
It happened, Mr. Brack.
This afternoon, between 3 and 4.
But good Lord, where did he do it?
Where? Well, I suppose at his lodgings.
No, that cannot be, for I was there between 6 and 7.
Well, then somewhere else. I don't know exactly. I only know that he was found. He had shot himself in the breast.
Oh, how terrible that he should die like this.
Was it in the breast?
Yes, as I told you.
Not in the temple.
In the breast, Mrs. Testman.
Well, the breast is a good place too.
How do you mean, Mrs. Testman?
Oh, nothing.
And the wound is dangerous, you say?
Absolutely mortal. The end has probably come by this time.
I feel it. The end. Oh, the end. Oh, Hedda.
Me? How have you learned all this?
Through the police, a man I had some business with.
At last, a deed worth doing.
Good heavens, Hedda! What are you saying?
I say there's beauty in this.
Mrs. Testman.
Hedda, how can you talk of beauty in such an act?
Alan Loveberg has himself made up his account with life. He has had the courage to do the one right thing.
No, you must never think that was how it happened. It must have been in delirium that he did it.
In despair.
That he did not. I am certain of that.
Yes, in delirium, just as when he tore up our manuscript.
Manuscript? How's he torn that up?
Yes, last night.
Oh, Hedda, she'll never get over this.
Very extraordinary.
To think of Eilert going out in the world in this way, not leaving behind him the book that would have immortalized his name.
If only it could be put together again.
Yes, only it could. I don't know what I wouldn't give.
Perhaps it can, Mr. Tessman.
What do you mean?
Look here. I have kept all of the loose notes you used to dictate from.
You have kept them, Mrs. Elstead? Eh?
Yes, I have them here. I have them in my pocket when I left home.
Oh, do let me see them.
Oh, but they are in such disorder. They're all mixed up.
Oh, fancy if we can make something out of them. After all, perhaps if we put our two heads together.
Oh, yes, at least let us try.
We'll manage it. We must. I will dictate my life to this task.
You, George? Your life?
Yes. Or rather, all the time I can spare. My own collections must wait in the meantime. Hedda, you understand, huh? I owe this to Eilert's memory.
Perhaps.
And so, my dear Elstead, We will give our whole minds to it. There's no use in brooding over what can't be undone. We must try to control our grief as much as possible.
Yes, yes, Mr. Tesman, I will do the best I can.
Well then, come here. I can't rest until we've looked through the notes. Where shall we sit? Here? No, in there, in the back room. Excuse me, my dear judge. Come with me, Mrs. Elstead.
Oh, if only it were possible.
Tessman and Mrs. Elfstead go into the back room. She takes off her hat and cloak. They both sit at the table under the hanging lamp and are soon deep in an eager examination of the papers. Hedda crosses to the stove and sits in the armchair. Presently, Brack goes up to her.
Oh, what a sense of freedom it gives one, this act of Lovebirds.
Freedom, Mrs. Hedda? Well, of course it is a release for him.
I mean, for me, it gives me a sense of freedom to know that a deed of deliberate courage is still possible in this world, a deed of spontaneous beauty.
My dear Mrs. Hedda.
Oh, I know what you are going to say, for you are a kind of specialist too, like you know.
Eilert Lovberg was more to you than perhaps you are willing to admit to yourself. Am I wrong?
I don't answer such questions. I only know that Eilert Lovberg has had the courage to live his life after his own fashion. And then the last great act with its beauty, that he should have the will and the strength to turn away from the banquet of life so early.
I am sorry, Mrs. Hedda, but I fear I must dispel an amiable illusion.
Illusion? What do you mean?
Eilert Lovberg did not shoot himself voluntarily.
Not voluntarily?
No, the thing did not happen exactly as I told it.
Have you concealed something? What is it?
For poor Mrs. Elvsted's sake, I idealized the facts a little.
What are the facts?
First, that he is already dead.
At the hospital?
Yes, without regaining consciousness.
What more have you concealed?
The event did not happen at his lodgings.
Oh, that can make no difference.
Perhaps it may, for I must tell you, Eilert Lovberg was found shot in Mademoiselle Diana's boudoir.
That is impossible, Judge Brack. He cannot have been there again today.
He was there this afternoon. He went there, he said, to demand the return of something which they had taken from him, talked wildly about a lost child.
So that is why?
I thought probably he meant his manuscript, but now I hear he destroyed that himself. So I suppose it must have been his pocketbook.
Yes, no doubt. And there he was found?
Yes, there, with a pistol in his breast pocket discharged. The ball had lodged in a vital part.
In the breast? Yes?
No, in the bowels.
That too? Oh, what a curse is that to make everything I touch turn ludicrous and mean.
There is one point more, Mrs. Hedda. Another disagreeable feature in the affair.
And what is that?
The pistol he carried.
Well, what of it?
He must have stolen it.
Stolen it? That is not true. He did not steal it.
No other explanation is possible. He must have stolen it. Hush.
Tessman and Mrs. Elfstead have risen from the table in the back room and come into the drawing room.
Hedda, dear, it's almost impossible to see under that lamp. Think of it.
Yes, I am thinking.
Do you mind our sitting at your writing table?
If you like. No, wait, let me clear it first.
Oh, you needn't trouble, Hedda. There's plenty of room.
No, let me clear it, I say. I will take these things in and put them on the piano. There.
She has drawn out an object covered with sheet music from under the bookcase, places several other pieces of music upon it, and carries the whole into the inner room to the left. Tessman lays the scraps of paper on the writing table and moves the lamp there from the corner table. He and Mrs. Elfstead sit down and proceed with their work. Hedda returns.
Well, my sweet Thea, how goes it with Eilert Lovberg's monument?
Oh, it will be terribly hard to put in order.
We must manage it. I'm determined, and arrange other people's papers is just the work for me.
Hedda goes over to the stove and seats herself on one of the footstools. Brack stands over her, leaning on the armchair.
Did you say about the pistol?
That he must have stolen it,
Why stolen it?
because every other explanation ought to be impossible, Mrs. Hedda.
Indeed?
Of course, Eilert Lovberg was here this morning, was he not?
Yes,
Were you alone with him?
part of the time.
Did you not leave the room while he was here?
No,
Try to recollect. Were you not out of the room a moment?
yes, perhaps just a moment, out in the hall.
And where was your pistol case during that time?
I had it locked up in.
Well, Mrs. Hedda,
The case stood there on the writing table.
have you looked since to see whether both the pistols are there?
No,
Well, you need not. I saw the pistol found in Lovberg's pocket, and I knew it at once as the one I had seen yesterday, and before too.
have you it with you?
No, the police have it.
What will the police do with it?
Search till they find the owner.
Do you think they will succeed?
No, Hedda Gabler. Not so long as I say nothing.
And if you do not say nothing, what then?
There's always the possibility that the pistol was stolen.
Death rather than that.
People say such things, but they don't do them.
And suppose the pistol was not stolen and the owner is discovered. What then?
Well, Hedda, then comes the scandal.
The scandal.
Yes, the scandal of which you are so mortally afraid. You will, of course, be brought before the court, both you and Mademoiselle Diana. She will have to explain how the thing happened, whether it was an accidental shot or murder. Did the pistol go off as he was trying to take it out of his pocket to threaten her with? Or did she tear the pistol out of his hand, shoot him, and push it back into his pocket? That would be quite like her, for she is an able-bodied young person, the same Mademoiselle Diana.
But I have nothing to do with all this repulsive business.
No, but you will have to answer the question. Why did you give Eilert the pistol? And what conclusions will people draw from the fact that you did give it to him?
That is true. I did not think of that.
Well, fortunately, there is no danger, so long as I say nothing.
So I am in your power, Judge Brack. You have me at your beck and call from this time forward.
Dearest Hedda, believe me, I shall not abuse my advantage.
I am in your power nonetheless, subject to your will and your demands. No, I cannot endure the thought of that. Never.
People generally get used to the inevitable.
Yes, perhaps. Well, are you getting on, George?
Heaven knows, dear. In any case, it'll be the work of months.
Fancy that. Doesn't it seem strange to you, Thea? Here you are sitting with Tesman just as you used to sit with Eilert Lovberg.
If only I could inspire your husband in the same way.
Oh, that will come too, in time.
Yes. Do you know, Hedda, I really think I begin to feel something of the sort. But won't you go sit with Brack again?
Is there nothing I can do to help you two?
Oh, no, nothing in the world. I trust you to keep Hedda company, my dear Brack.
With the very greatest of pleasure.
Thanks, but I am tired this evening. I will go in and lie down a little on the sofa.
Do, dear.
Hedda goes into the back room and draws the curtains. A short pause. Suddenly, she is heard playing a wild dance on the piano.
What is that?
Why, my dearest Hedda, don't play dance music tonight. Just think of Aunt Rena and Eilert too.
And of Aunt Julia and all the rest of them. After this, I will be quiet.
It is not good for her to see us at this distressing work. I'll tell you what, Mrs. Elfsted. You shall take the empty room at Aunt Julia's, and then I'll come over in the evenings and we can sit down and work there.
I hear what you are saying, Tasman, but how am I to go through the evenings out here?
Oh, I just dare say Judge Brack will be so kind as to look now and then, though I'm out.
Every blessed evening with all the pleasure in life, Mrs. Tessman. We shall get on capitally together, we two.
Yes, don't you flatter yourself, we will, Judge Brack, now that you are the one cock in the basket.
A shot is heard within. Tessman, Mrs. Elfsted, and Brack leap to their feet.
Oh, now she's playing with those pistols again.
He throws back the curtains and runs in, followed by Mrs. Elfsted. Hedda lies stretched on the sofa, lifeless. Confusion and cries. Berta enters in alarm from the right.
Shot herself! Shot herself in the temple! Fancy that!
Good God, people don't do such things.